The rain had
Please, we
just
just want to
stopped
come in
when
and have a
Marcus
nice
wheeled his
evening.
daughter Emma
I'm
through
sorry,
the
but I
puddles
can't
toward
allow that.
Romano,
This isn't
their
fair.
favorite Thursday night tradition. He didn't notice the woman in the wheelchair struggling at the restaurant entrance, didn't hear the heated voices, until Emma tugged his sleeve. What he saw next made his blood boil, and set in motion a chain of events that would change their lives forever. Marcus Chen had learned to recognize injustice from a mile away. Single-parenting his 7-year-old daughter after his wife's death 3 years ago had opened his eyes to a world he'd never fully understood before. Emma's cerebral palsy meant countless battles with accessibility, ignorance, and the casual cruelty of people who simply didn't want to be inconvenienced. But nothing had prepared him for what was happening at Romano's entrance. A well-dressed woman in an electric wheelchair sat motionless while the restaurant manager, a man Marcus vaguely recognized from previous visits, stood with his arms crossed. The woman looked to be in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair and an expression of quiet dignity that was rapidly crumbling. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're fully booked tonight," the manager said, his voice dripping with false politeness. Behind him, through the glass doors, Marcus could see at least 4 empty tables. "I have a reservation," the woman replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Catherine Morrison, 7:30. The manager barely glanced at his tablet. "I don't see it. Perhaps you made a mistake. There's a diner 2 blocks down that might be more suitable for your needs." Emma's grip tightened on Marcus's hand. She knew that tone. They'd heard it 100 times, that particular blend of condescension and discomfort that people used when they wanted someone different to simply disappear. Marcus felt something snap inside him. He'd spent 3 years swallowing his anger, teaching Emma to respond with grace and patience to a world that wasn't built for her. But tonight, watching another human being dismissed like an inconvenience, he couldn't stay silent. "Excuse me," Marcus said, stepping forward. "Did I just hear you turn away a customer with a confirmed reservation?" The manager's professional smile flickered. "Sir, this is a private matter. It's a public restaurant, and I'm a regular customer." Marcus pulled out his phone. "Catherine Morrison, 7:30. Let me guess, the reservation exists, but suddenly you're fully booked because accommodating a wheelchair seems like too much trouble." The manager's face reddened. "Now see here. No, you see here." Marcus's voice carried across the entrance, drawing the attention of passing pedestrians. "I come here every Thursday with my daughter. We've never had trouble getting a table. But the moment someone who actually needs accessibility shows up, suddenly there's no room." Catherine looked up at Marcus, surprise and gratitude mixing in her eyes. "Please, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," Marcus said gently, then turned back to the manager. "I'm guessing you didn't want to rearrange tables or worry about clear pathways. Easier to just turn her away and hope she goes quietly." A crowd was forming now. The manager glanced nervously at the onlookers, then at the restaurant owner approaching from inside. "Sir, I can assure you." "You can assure me of nothing," Marcus cut him off. "What you can do is honor Ms. Morrison's reservation, or you can lose my business forever. And I'll make sure everyone knows exactly why." The owner, a heavy-set man named Tony Romano, pushed through the doors. Marcus had always liked Tony. He remembered birthdays, asked about Emma's therapy, gave them the corner table without being asked. Tony took one look at the situation and his expression darkened. "What's going on here, Frank?" The manager, Frank, stammered. "Mr. Romano, I was just explaining that we're fully booked. With 4 empty tables visible from here." Tony's voice was ice. He turned to Catherine. "Ma'am, I apologize. Your reservation is honored, of course. Frank, move table 7 near the window. Clear the path." He looked at his manager with undisguised disappointment. "We'll talk later." Catherine wheeled forward, but paused beside Marcus. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, he did," Emma piped up, speaking for the first time. "Because it's right. Mommy used to say that if you can help, you should." Catherine's eyes glistened. She studied Emma, then Marcus, as if memorizing their faces. "Your mother was very wise. What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emma Chen. And this is my dad, Marcus." "It's very nice to meet you both," Catherine said. Something in her expression shifted, a decision being made. "Would you consider joining me for dinner? I'd hate to eat alone after all this excitement." Marcus hesitated. They had their routine, their corner table, their Thursday tradition. But Emma was already nodding enthusiastically, and something in Catherine's eyes suggested this mattered more than he understood. "We'd be honored," he said. That dinner stretched into 3 hours. Catherine asked about Emma's favorite subjects in school, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian, her collection of stuffed animals. She listened to Marcus talk about his work as a graphic designer, the juggling act of freelancing and parenting, the small victories and daily challenges. And slowly, she began to share her own story. She'd been a dancer once, performing on stages around the world. A car accident 15 years ago had ended that life abruptly. She'd spent months in rehabilitation, learning to navigate a world that suddenly saw her as less than. The restaurant incident wasn't unique, it was routine. "But people like you," Catherine said, looking at Marcus, "people who stand up when they don't have to, you're the ones who give me hope." 3 days later, Marcus received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end introduced herself as Patricia Hendricks, attorney for Catherine Morrison. His heart sank. Had he somehow caused trouble? Made things worse? "Mr. Chen, Ms. Morrison would like to meet with you. Are you available tomorrow afternoon?" The address Patricia gave him was in the city's financial district. When Marcus and Emma arrived, they found themselves in a sleek office building, riding an elevator to the 23rd floor. Catherine was waiting in a conference room that overlooked the city, somehow looking both powerful and vulnerable in her chair. "I wasn't entirely honest with you at dinner," Catherine began. "Or rather, I left some things out. My full name is Catherine Morrison Landry. Does that mean anything to you?" Marcus shook his head, but something nagged at his memory. Emma was studying Catherine with her usual unfiltered curiosity. 15 years ago, when I had my accident, I inherited my late husband's software company. I'd been so focused on dance that I barely understood what he did. But learning to run Morrison Tech gave me purpose when I needed it most. We've grown significantly. Last year, we were valued at just over $2 billion. Marcus felt the room tilt slightly. The woman they'd shared dinner with, whose reservation had been dismissed, was a billionaire. Catherine smiled at his expression. "I spend most of my time on disability advocacy now. I've been designing a new initiative, a grant program to support single parents of children with disabilities. Medical costs, therapy, adaptive equipment, home modifications, educational support. The paperwork just cleared last week." She wheeled closer to Marcus, her eyes intense. "What you did Thursday night, standing up for a stranger when you had nothing to gain, that's rare. And the way you're raising Emma, teaching her strength and compassion simultaneously, that's remarkable. I'd like to name the program in your wife's honor. Patricia tells me her name was Lauren." Marcus couldn't speak. Emma squeezed his hand. "The Lauren Chen Initiative," Catherine continued, "will start by helping 50 families in the first year. But there's one condition. The first recipient, the family that will help us design the program, test it, refine it, needs to be you and Emma. If you'll accept." "I don't, we can't." Marcus struggled to find words. "This is too much." "No," Catherine said firmly. "It's exactly right. You stood up for me when a simple man with a good heart saw injustice. You reminded me that kindness still exists. Let me do this. Not as repayment, but as partnership. Help me help others the way you helped me." Emma looked up at her father, her eyes shining. "Daddy, we could help other kids like me." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face, not caring that a room full of lawyers was witnessing his breakdown. 3 years of carrying everything alone, of worrying about Emma's future, of lying awake calculating medical costs, it all crashed over him at once. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes, we'll help." 6 months later, Marcus stood in Romano's once again. Tony had turned the incident into a teaching moment, implementing comprehensive accessibility training for all staff. Frank no longer worked there, but the restaurant had become a model for inclusive dining in the city. Catherine sat beside Marcus and Emma at their Thursday table, because it had become their table now, all 3 of them. The Lauren Chen Initiative had helped 30 families already, with applications pouring in from across the country. Marcus had joined Morrison Tech as a consultant, bringing his design skills to make their accessibility software more intuitive. But more than that, they'd become family. Catherine attended Emma's therapy sessions, cheered at her school performances, and taught her that disability wasn't limitation, it was just a different way of moving through the world. "What made you trust us?" Marcus asked one evening as they shared dessert. You didn't know anything about us. Catherine smiled, reaching across to pat Emma's hand. I knew everything I needed to know. I saw a man who didn't walk past injustice. I saw a father raising a daughter to be brave and kind. I saw people who understood that our worth isn't measured by what our bodies can or cannot do. She paused, her voice softening. And I saw a chance to turn one moment of cruelty into something beautiful. Emma grinned, chocolate on her chin. Daddy says you can't control the bad stuff that happens. You can only control what you do about it. Your daddy is very wise, Catherine said. And your mother would be very proud. Later, as they wheeled out together into the warm evening air, Marcus thought about that rainy Thursday night. One moment, one choice to speak up instead of walking past. How easily he could have stayed silent, unwilling to cause a scene. How different everything would be if he had. But he'd learned from loving Lauren, from raising Emma, that silence in the face of injustice is its own kind of cruelty. That standing up isn't about being a hero, it's simply about being human. The rain started again as they reached Marcus's car, soft drops that caught the streetlight like falling stars. Emma laughed, tilting her face to the sky. Catherine raised her hands to catch the drops. And Marcus stood between them, humbled by the reminder that sometimes kindness doesn't just change one life. Sometimes it ripples outward, touching dozens, hundreds, thousands of lives in ways you never imagined. All because one person chose to stand up when it mattered most.